This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. Welcome in, everybody, to this week's episode of the DocNJock Wrestling Podcast. I'm your host, Adam the Jock Strozinski. On today's show, congratulations are in order for a WWE star. A former WWE star has alleged that he knows of a worse Vince McMahon situation. A WWE star will be sidelined for up to 9 months. And we do have a rumored city for SummerSlam. We've got all that coming up later on in the show. This is your Elimination Chamber prediction show. We had a great go-home show on Monday night, helping me break it all down and sort through all of it. He's the one. He's the only. He is the Doc, John Macaroon. What's up, cuz? Sunning yourself in Orlando, thinking you maybe ran into Charlotte and Andrade? Well, what's going on? What's the lowdown? Did you actually see Charlotte Flair?
Story time with Doc. Yes, it is confirmed. I did stand right shoulder to shoulder with Charlotte Flair, and it was just simple as that. And I got proof because...
And he grabbed her butt.
No, absolutely not. Yeah, with Andrade standing there, it would have been quite funny to see a guy get his ass beat in Animal Kingdom. But I got to Florida on Monday and right away took in the sights. The plan was to check out one of the parks, and we went to Epcot first in the morning, and then about 3 o'clock we checked out and we went to, cause you can bus through between parks, and we went to Animal Kingdom. And you're walking, you're sightseeing. All of a sudden, I see somebody very casual, dressed down, and I'm looking right at her, and I'm like, oh my goodness, that's a dressed down Charlotte Flair. I look over and I'm like, that's Andrade. Right away in my brain, I'm like, that's them. But what confused me was at first from going up to them was they had either a stroller. I don't know. I didn't see if there was somebody in the stroller or a cart or was it just personal. They were pushing something around. And it was walking. So, you know, when you're at these parks like Cedar Point, you're just walking and people are walking towards you and you're walking towards them. So literally to my left, it was Charlotte Flair and Andrade. But, you know, you're like, okay, well, you know, they looked really dressed down and super casual. Like, you know how you go out and you're wearing a tank top that's got a couple colors on it? That's what Andrade was wearing. He was dressed down, super casual. Bro, it could look like anybody. But then when we got home, we rested, I naturally said, okay, I'm going to go look and see if that was Charlotte. So I typed in Charlotte Flair, and right there her picture showed up. Charlotte Flair is at Disney's Animal Kingdom. I'm like, yeah, that was her. I saw them directly, shoulder to shoulder, within 2 inches. We brushed past each other. And even if I had a chance, the pace she was walking, I was going in the opposite direction than she was. But what I did was right away, I said, hey, I told my wife, hey, slow down a minute. And I told my daughter, I said, Liv, I think I just saw Charlotte Flair. And she's like, really? I said, yes, I think she's in this park. And we just went about our business because, look, I'm not going to be a star, stalker in that situation. Now, if we were going in the same direction and potentially she stops, I might have said, hey, I'm a big fan and good luck in your recovery. That would have been my thing. But she was so dressed down. She looked really casual. And I don't think at that moment she's going to want to talk to a podcaster because I would have actually naturally said, hey, we got a podcast. Will you come on and talk about your recovery? Yo, Andrade, come on. Let's come talk. Viva la raza. I would have said, Viva la raza. Let's go. Come on, my podcast, mi amigo. He would look to me like, what the fuck? This is not what I want to be doing on my day off. And so it was fun, man. Look, being in Orlando, I manifested. I had a feeling I would see somebody because it felt like the whole damn world was in Orlando this week, especially from Michigan. But it's a great place, man, and I recommend everybody checking it out. Everybody knows Disney's the happiest place on earth, and wrestlers love to take time off. And it looks like Charlotte's been showing Andrade a lot of the parks because on Valentine's Day she took him to Magic Kingdom. So looks like Andrade's probably learning what these parks are all about.
Yeah, for sure. And you know what? It was pretty cool because you instantly sent that to me and Kenny. We had a quick conversation about it. It was cool that you got to, one, be on vacation with your kids, and we all know that your kids are huge wrestling fans. And you basically got to run into and basically go shoulder to shoulder with a WWE superstar.
Yes.
Point that out to your kids, and it was really, really a cool experience. It was awesome. And I'm happy that you're on vacation. You deserve it. You work your ass off. All that being said, we've got a pay-per-view coming up.
Yes.
No, we got to break this down. At this moment in time, this is going to be a heavy deciding factor in the calling the card prediction game that we play. We are basically neck and neck. You lead by 1 point. We've got this pay-per-view, and then we've got AEW's Revolution coming up. And that's going to basically it, because once we get to WrestleMania, we reset everything. We start over. So this prediction is kind of for all of the cards, if you will, and this is for basically the trophy that we have for the Calling the Cards segment. Before we get into the Elimination Chamber predictions, because it's a very small card that we have, it's taking place in Perth, Australia. It's taking place on Saturday, February 24th at 5 a.m. This is going to be a difficult one to watch live, unless you are an early riser. I know you're an early riser. I tend to be one as well. When it comes to Saturday, I like to sleep in as much as possible. I'm not getting up for this. I will watch this on replay. So we'll wake up, and for the most part, this will already be done. But we had a pretty good go-home show with Raw, and I just want to touch base on what we got from Raw. I think you put in our group chat, I think the words that you used were, this was a highly effective go-home show. I thought this was a well-done go-home show. It helped expand some stories, specifically, yes. I wouldn't say so much for the Elimination Chamber, but for the grander scheme of everything going on with WrestleMania, specifically with Cody Rhodes and Drew McIntyre. Drew McIntyre taking advantage of the bloodline attacking Cody Rhodes and basically pinning Cody Rhodes after the attack. Cody Rhodes had him dead to rights, and Solo Sikoa comes up and thumbs him in the neck, and Drew McIntyre takes advantage of this. That is the same thing that has gotten Drew McIntyre on tilt. That's the one thing that has pissed him off, is that he lost in Glasgow when the bloodline interfered in his match. When Solo Sikoa made his debut, it's the one thing that's had him on tilt. But in his mind, he is absolutely justified in what he's doing. I think it's a nice little caveat, a nice little chunk of character development for a guy like Drew McIntyre, and it plays into the story with Cody Rhodes. I want to get your thoughts on what we got from a really good go-home show on Monday Night Raw.
Breaking, Cody Rhodes lost for the first time on television since forever, and the first loss that I think we could think of since last year's WrestleMania. Cody's been a winning machine, and you rarely see him have his shoulders pinned on television. So it was crazy, and I thought, you know what? What a great way to elevate Drew McIntyre, and it really makes him look important. Because Cody is who he is, a win in that fashion really makes it important. And it has meaning. And then what they did with Jay and Jimmy Uso, I thought was, for a moment, a brief moment, it might have been 6 seconds, I thought Jay Uso was going to be the IC champ. They had him built up. They had him only to have his brother again cost him a title, which, if you're paying attention, he's cost Jay the IC title, the world title, and the tag title. So it naturally is going to set up a match I think everybody wants to see at WrestleMania. And I think it's such perfect storytelling, because in that match we have a why. Bro, you screwed me multiple times, and there's a debate to be had regarding which guys should go over. But in the end, it's perfect. I thought Raw did a good job of making the feelings that you're supposed to have for certain guys elevate, which is great.
Yeah, I thought it was really well done, and it helps further a lot of stories for what in the grander scheme is the bigger pay-per-view. That being said, like I said before, Saturday, February 24th at 5 a.m., we've got the Elimination Chamber taking place in Australia. The way I see this card breaking down is we've got the one kicking it off is going to be the undisputed WWE Tag Team Champions, Finn Balor and Damian Priest, taking on Pete Dunne and Tyler Bates. How do you see this match going? How do you see this match playing out? Because I think Pete Dunne and Tyler Bates right now are getting a really nice push. They're getting a really nice rub. And look, this reinvention of Pete Dunne has been nice to see. A lot better than the Butch character. We all liked Pete Dunne when he was in NXT. I like Pete Dunne on the main roster. I think it works. I think Finn Balor's great. I think Damian Priest is great. But I think we could see a change up here with these WWE tag team titles, and you could give a little bit of shine to a guy like Pete Dunne and Tyler Bates. What are your thoughts on this match?
Yeah, no, it's interesting, but I think that the Judgment Day needs to kind of go into Mania strong. You can't have the Judgment Day not roll into Mania with belts, with the prestige. And I think that eventually, may not be at Mania, Damian Priest is going to cash in. I know it's looking like July is the deadline. So I think that, yes, it's a great push, but it's an opportunity to also continue to elevate Finn Balor as well as being a tag champ. So I think Judgment Day retains.
You know, what I could see you doing here is having one of those fractured storylines, right? One of those storylines where this is one of those pivotal moments, those sentimental moments where the Judgment Day starts to maybe break, or maybe even Damian Priest specifically starts to break away from the Judgment Day. Look, it feels like Damian Priest has had that Money in the Bank briefcase for 3 years now. I know it hasn't been that long, but it feels like it's been a freaking eternity. I think this could be the impetus. This could be the thing that starts him to walk away from the Judgment Day. I'm going to start off early. I'm going to go Pete Dunne, Tyler Bates, get the win. Look, I think you have very sound reasoning for your selection, but I think you could do a grander story here by having a loss for the Judgment Day to start the show and to really help catapult Damian Priest into another direction. So I think that will be interesting. Next, we've got the Elimination Chamber. This is to determine the number one contender for the Women's World Title at WrestleMania. Give me one sec. I did a very poor job putting our rundown together. Did not add all of the competitors that are in this match. I know Becky Lynch. We've got Bianca Belair, Liv Morgan, Tiffany Stratton, Naomi, and Raquel Rodriguez all competing in the Elimination Chamber for the chance to take on Rhea Ripley at WrestleMania. I've got Becky Lynch winning this. I think the way that this has kind of been laid out, this goes back to a couple of weeks ago with an episode of Raw where Becky basically called out Rhea Ripley. I think we get a continuation of that storyline. There's been a little bit of back and forth with Nia Jax and Becky Lynch. Now you've got Nia Jax and Rhea Ripley facing off at Elimination Chamber. I think you can kind of tie it all together here and put a bow on these two storylines and earpin them and earmark them for WrestleMania. I've got Becky Lynch winning this match.
Yeah, no doubt. I would think that the two favorites are who you think they're going to be in this chamber. So it looks like maybe our first prediction might be the qualifying, the deciding factor into who wins. But no doubt about it, Becky Lynch is walking into the Elimination Chamber the favorite, and she's going to walk out the winner. No doubt about it.
We then have a Seth Rollins and a Cody Rhodes appearance on the Grayson Waller effect. What do you think we get out of this? Because I'm not 100%, I get why Grayson Waller will be on this show, right? He's Australian. He's a hometown guy, or he's a home country guy, so you're going to get that pop. It's part of the reason why I've got Rhea Ripley main eventing this pay-per-view is because she's the hometown girl. Do you expect anything from this segment? Because I could see them kind of jockeying back and forth. The big thing that I could get out of this, right, is that Cody realizes after this attack on Monday that he now has to change up his game plan. He has to figure out something else, and I think he's going to take Seth Rollins' help, and I think that'll be the big thing that comes out of this little segment that we're going to get with the Waller effect. But otherwise, I'm not 100% sure why we have this besides just trying to get Seth Rollins and Cody Rhodes on TV.
Yeah, absolutely. Entertainment. I think, you know what it is? You and I love it. It's the cheap pop. And you know what that cheap pop is going to entail? Grayson Waller talking a bunch of shit. And maybe setting a little stage for down the road one day where Cody and Seth can beat up Grayson Waller in a match down the road. But I think that Grayson Waller is going to talk a lot of shit about how The Rock is the man, blah, blah, blah. I think that part of the talk will be about Seth convincing Cody again why he should be in the corner. A little bit of a salesmanship, and then Grayson comes in, interrupts all the time, or says something about how those two are clowning around because Roman's the man. And then what you get is a little glimpse of what a union between Cody Rhodes and Seth looks like, where they both whoop his ass and the crowd goes crazy. So we'll see. I'm curious to see if what people are teasing could happen, maybe a reuniting of a longtime friendship. I think that a more serious Seth Rollins might end up being better for him long-term wise, or you kind of finish the story in a different direction. So we'll see. But right now, we're in the la-la phase of Seth Rollins trying to woo and court Cody Rhodes. And I think it'll be entertaining, at least for the most part, in Perth, Australia.
Awesome. I think I like what you're alluding to here, and it could be a really, really interesting caveat that we get later on as we make our way to WrestleMania. So then that leads us to who's going to challenge Seth Rollins for the World Heavyweight Championship. And in this Elimination Chamber, you've got a guy like Drew McIntyre, you've got a guy like Randy Orton, you got a guy like LA Knight, you got Kevin Owens, and you've got Logan Paul as well as Bobby Lashley. I can do the picking for us. I think we both believe it's going to be Drew McIntyre. Drew McIntyre has done a fantastic job with this reinvention of himself, with this new angry, almost delusional character. I see Drew McIntyre coming out the winner. I see him and Seth Rollins having a fantastic match at WrestleMania.
No doubt about it. Drew's going to look awesome. I think that this is the way you go to build a superstar, to get him back to a position where you kind of believe maybe he's the rightful person to carry that title. And that's all you can do is to have a believable performer that has been elevated and win some big stuff. So good for Drew, and I think it'll be entertaining. But boy, if it wasn't Drew, and I know you and I believe it, and I think they're going to deliver it, wouldn't it be fun if it was LA Knight?
Oh my God, it'd be great.
It would be great, right? If you tease it or if you shock everybody, because you got to have a little bit of surprise. But at the same time, I do think that a WrestleMania match can be set up by what happens in the Elimination Chamber. You know what probably that WrestleMania match probably should be? It should be Randy Orton and LA Knight. Just have them go at it, have LA Knight cost Randy Orton a chance or whatever happens. And I think that's a nice program. I would like to see it. And I think that would be something very interesting, the Viper versus LA Knight. So we'll see how it plays out. But I do believe a WrestleMania match is going to come from whatever happens in the chamber. Some feud will develop, something will spark off, or at least it'll be talked about further as the Elimination Chamber, as we see what the results are. I think there's going to be some long-term ramifications from the chaos. Let's just hope that everybody comes out healthy, because that shit tends to be chaotic.
Yeah, it's a pretty brutal match. Like, physically, it will beat you up. We've seen some crazy stunts, too, done off the top of those elimination pods. So this is an extremely physical and physically grueling match that we get on Saturday. This all leads up to what I believe is going to be the main event. The WWE Women's World Championship, Rhea Ripley taking on Nia Jax. I don't think either one of us have any doubts. I think Rhea's winning this one. I think that Nia will look strong in this, but I think this is Rhea's time. Rhea looks incredible in this match. She comes out the winner, and she will go on to face Becky Lynch at WrestleMania.
No doubt about it. But wouldn't it be great to send the crowd home kind of confused? If you do it, I would say do it first. Just set it right up and set the tone where the crowd is like devastated, and then you bring in probably the interview segment so that they can get back up a little bit before you kick off some elimination chambers.
Honestly, this could be the show opener. This could be the one that opens the entire thing. I just believed it was going to be the main event.
Yeah.
And wrestlers say, if I'm not main eventing the show, I want to be the curtain jerk. I want to be the first one that goes off because I want to build the crowd up and set them up for the rest of the evening. So it could go one of two ways, either main event or, like you said, this would be a prime spot. Cause I look, when I was putting the card together, when I was going through grabbing the information on what's on this card, I was like, would this one be first or would this one be main event? And I was like, I feel like it would go main event, but I debated with myself. I hemmed and I hawed, and my 51% said main event. Yeah. My 49% said curtain jerk. So it could go one of two ways. Yeah, no, if you have her lose, you put it in the beginning, because the crowd would be going crazy to see it. But it has been built that way. They've given Nia Jax the run that many people wouldn't have expected, having her run in on Monday Night Raw. The women's segment on Raw was a little interesting in that it kind of dragged, and I didn't think every woman needed an individual presentation, individual entrance. But at the same time, it was nice to see Raquel Rodriguez. And, man, I'll say this. Outside of performance, the way they've been having Bianca Belair show up to the ring in her ambiance and her attire, I was like, my gosh, she's elevating her stature in a lot of different ways. That attire
is very appealing to a lot of different groups there. And I was like, oh my goodness, she was wrestling in it too. I was like, how the hell is this girl wrestling and flying around the ring in these heels? But at the same time, I thought that Liv did a good job in establishing herself. But Nia Jax, I thought the person that did the worst job was Naomi. I was like, it wasn't that great. But in the end, I do think that the women's Elimination Chamber can steal the show. But also, do you think Rhea Ripley slams Nia Jax, like puts her on her shoulder, does something crazy to show her strength as well? Something crazy like that?
I don't. I think there'll be a spot, but I don't see it because I think what it does is it diminishes Jade Cargill and what Jade Cargill just did at the Royal Rumble. And look, they're having a really hard time with Jade Cargill right now. She was supposed to be in this Elimination Chamber match, and they pulled her for whatever reason. And as of right now, she's not included in it. She's not on the card at all. So it's interesting to see. Look, as much as we've been critical of AEW recently, they did a fantastic job building Jade Cargill, basically taking her from a total noob, somebody who was completely green, and building her up to be this freak. You gotta see her athlete, and you believe that she was so dominant and she was so decent in the ring. She gets to WWE, and at this moment in time, I wonder if there's any buyer's remorse because they gave her a huge contract. They can't necessarily send her to NXT because her contract is so big, and they just don't know what to do with her. They're basically sitting on her. You look at what she did in the Royal Rumble. Royal Rumble is a really interesting match. You basically go in there, and you could be in there for 35 minutes, but really and truly, you did like 5 minutes worth of a match. There's not a whole lot when you're in a Royal Rumble because there's so much going on. You don't have to do a whole lot. You can kind of go and just kind of sit in a corner and look a little winded while you're getting punched by somebody. She had 2 or 3 big spots in that Royal Rumble, and that really helped elevate her. And now everybody has expectations, but you're not getting her yet. And there's a reason for it. And it's not because nobody's ready for her. It's she's not ready for the big spot. And it's interesting. I wonder if you were to get Triple H alone, give him a little bit of true serum, if he's kicking himself in the ass for signing her and signing her to the deal that he signed her for. And I wonder if Jade is having a little bit of buyer's remorse too, because she could have stayed with AEW. She could be getting a little bit more screen time. You ever hear a wrestler talk? Wrestlers always want to be in the ring, always want to be working, always want to be doing their craft. I wonder if she has the same passion and she's feeling the same way. It's really, really interesting with Jade Cargill right now.
Yeah, it is. And obviously it's going to involve the total package. Viewing her more as an attraction, you got to get her in-ring work a little bit tight. And, obviously WWE is taking their time with her. They really, when they present her, Triple H said it, it's going to be slow. It's going to be a process where when it's a full go, it's a full go. So right now they're still kind of in the, acclimation phase, as we call it, where when she's there, she gets a pop here and there, but the company's not ready yet to give her the full weekly package of in-ring work and give her full storylines. I think that's okay. I think that's fair, especially with somebody that came from AEW that maybe doesn't have as much ring experience that the WWE would like in the position they want to put her in. They're going to listen, when they do it, you're going to know they're going to put a rocket ship to her back and she's going to be a world champ.
Absolutely. I agree with you 110%. That's going to basically wrap up our preview for the Elimination Chamber. Just to kind of recount what we've got going on. We both have Rhea Ripley winning. We both have Drew McIntyre winning the Elimination Chamber. We think we could see something special here with the Seth Rollins, Cody Rhodes appearance on the Grayson Waller effect. We both have Becky Lynch winning. Where we differ and where a point will be won or lost will be on the tag team match between Finn Balor and Damian Priest versus Pete Dunne and Tyler Bates. That will be interesting. Again, Elimination Chamber takes place. You can catch it on Peacock Saturday, February 24th at 5 in the morning. A very early start for this. Again, the doc leads me by 1 point. We've got this pay-per-view, and we've got one more pay-per-view before we seal the deal for this round, this year's Calling the Card extravaganza. Again, we reset everything when WrestleMania rolls around, and we kick it off early with 2 back-to-back pay-per-views on a Saturday and on a Sunday night. You ready for some news and notes?
Hit me with this week's professional wrestling news and notes. What made your list.
Congratulations are in order for a WWE star who has officially tied the knot with their partner. People magazine reported that currently injured WWE star Sonya Deville and her fiance Tony Cassano got married on Saturday, February 10th. The ceremony was officiated by WWE fan Maria Menounos and took place at the Legacy Castle in New Jersey with 140 of their friends and family in attendance. Deville has been out of action in WWE since suffering a torn ACL injury during a tag match on July 28th's edition of SmackDown. If you're not sure who Sonya Deville's fiance is, she's nice. It's weird because I think Sonya Deville is a very attractive lady. Her partner is a little bit more attractive. If you are into dark-haired, dark-eyed ladies, go check it out. Find their Instagram. It's usually pretty good. A former WWE star has alleged that he knows of an incident worse than what was described in the recent major Vince McMahon lawsuit. On January 25th, a lawsuit was filed hitting Vince McMahon with allegations of sexual trafficking, abuse, and a whole lot more. In a recent interview with Ashley Banfield for News Nation, former WWE star Paul Roma commented on the stories of alleged sexual abuse in WWE and said it's even worse than what's being reported. Roma talked about the backstage culture and people McMahon insulated himself with, saying, but it wasn't so much Vince as it was the people that he had surrounded himself with. You're talking about an industry where you have young, good-looking, well-built men in the ring, half naked, three-quarters naked, actually. So yeah, it left the door open and he had a lot of people around him. Romo would go on to discuss the uncomfortable positions some of the wrestlers were put in, saying they were asked to do things, sexual things, with other men that they did not want to do, my former partner being one of them. Roma continued later in the interview discussing another partner, even my former partner, same thing. They offered him money, drugs, just lay on your back. You don't have to do anything. And he came running right to me when I came into TV, and I said, dude, what are you going to do? Commenting on why more people haven't come out about these experiences, Roma said, on the flip side, I think that they're of an age now that they may be married, have kids, and they don't want to open Pandora's box. And I can't blame them. Can you blame them? Would you really want to open this up? This can of worms? No, you wouldn't want to open it up. Roma wrestled for WWE from 1984 to 1991 as part of the Young Stallions and Power and Glory. He would leave WWE and sign with WCW to become part of the Four Horsemen for a very short time. A WWE star has confirmed that they have suffered a torn ACL during a recent match and will be out of action for 9 months. On Tuesday night's NXT, Shotzi was in a match against Lia Valkyrie for the NXT Women's Championship where she would get hurt. This match was taped last week as WWE will be in Perth, Australia for the Elimination Chamber. When the injury took place, WWE officials were said to have been worried about Shotzi. She recently took to Instagram to provide an update of her injury. She said, I tore my ACL, which means I will be out of action for about 9 months. Thank you to everyone who has checked up on me. I'm so sorry I haven't responded. I'm just extremely devastated and angry. In her post, she would go on to talk about how the last 2 years have been tough on her, and she's had to grind through a lot of physical, mental, and emotional issues. We wish Shotzi a very speedy recovery. And finally, we've got a rumor city for SummerSlam that has been leaked. Now, Doc, this year's SummerSlam may be near our backyard. Last year, it was in our backyard. This may be very, very close to us. If we were a giant, we could do a stone's throw. According to Fightful Select Report, the rumor city for the WWE SummerSlam 2024 event would be in Cleveland, Ohio. Cleveland. So about what, a 3.5, maybe 4 hour drive? We could go check that out if you wanted to.
Cleveland. I'm not sure if I'm a fan, but it feels like it feels like SummerSlam has been gypped by Royal Rumble, WrestleMania. It feels like SummerSlam used to be number 3. Yep. But now it kind of feels like it's number 4, and I don't want to invest $1,000 a ticket for number 4. We don't get no surprises. We don't get nothing, and you never know. The guys in the main event might get erased from history when some news gets revealed about this investigation in WWE. Yep. So you never know what's going to happen. So we'll see.
It's weird because I think during COVID we had probably 2 of the cooler SummerSlams that we've had, right?
Yes.
And I think that year coming out of COVID, we had a pretty cool SummerSlam. Since then, we were just at the one in Detroit, you and I both. And look, it was okay. I wasn't overly impressed. I was actually kind of sad I spent the money for it. You know, it was an experience, but still sad that I went because I could have stayed at home and watched it at home and it would have been just as good. So it's SummerSlam, like you said, it feels as though a lot less effort put into the creative and the build up for SummerSlam and the actual show for SummerSlam. It's sad because that used to be one of my favorite pay-per-views.
Yeah, it could be so much better, but I think that when you look at it, maybe Cleveland, I don't know, but look with Triple H leading the way and giving him real fast before you finish. Did you like the UFC involvement? I kind of felt it was cheap, and I'm like, oh God, you're already trying to have a crossover within like 3 weeks of your merger or your official situation on Wall Street. I'm like, I wasn't a fan of that.
Yeah, it felt very forced. I did not like it. I was like, this is what we are now in store for. It's, you know, there's a lot of good stuff that comes with the TKO takeover of WWE, and there's going to be a lot of bad stuff that's going to be associated with it. And it's just going to be one of those things. I think we're just going to have to get used to it.
Yep, you got it.
All right, well, that is all I've got for news and notes. Looks like it's going to be a good show for this Saturday's pay-per-view. Again, 5 a.m. You want to tune in if you're awake. Otherwise, catch it on the replay on Peacock.
No doubt. You're going to listen to this podcast on a Friday. That's when it's going to drop. And hopefully everybody enjoys this pay-per-view. 5 a.m. I will not be watching it live. I'm going to try and be somebody that stays in the dark, watch it Saturday evening. After a long week with the family, that will be my Saturday evening. Will be to relax, kick my feet up, and I'll finally find out what happened with the Elimination Chamber. Make sure you follow Adam on Twitter at AdamRSGROZ. Follow the network at Detroit Podcast. If you've agreed or disagreed with anything that we've said on this broadcast, hit us up. If you think that our two predictions are completely out of left field or you think that something different is going to happen, let us know. And also, if you are interested, Sports Illustrated, I think Justin Barrazzo does one of the great jobs in the world of professional wrestling. Have to promote SI, and they are doing great work at SI Wrestling. They have an interview up, Q&A style, I think, and they had an opportunity to talk to Randy Orton, talking about CM Punk returning, what it was like, obviously talking a little bit briefly about Vince. And guess what, cuz? This week, as a reminder, you get, I think, a biographies, the A&E wrestling stuff on Sunday. If you just haven't gotten your fill of wrestling, the A&E slot, I think, has a spot, a biographies on Randy Orton, and then a rivalry show with Triple H and Randy Orton. So Sunday should be a fun time. And to close it out, John Cena on Wednesday morning spent an hour with Howard Stern. So I haven't heard it yet, and this weekend probably, if there's a free moment, I will try and find it. But John Cena spent an hour where naturally I'm sure Howard definitely got into some conversation about Vince McMahon. So definitely I think it'll be worth a chat, and we'll probably look at some of it next week in our recap, because I can't wait to recap Elimination Chamber next week on the next episode of the DocNJock Wrestling Podcast.